what we do here before we come on air is so exciting that we bring what we discussed before you see us on your screens to you. Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm full of smiles. Amma doesn't look. Amma, why are you so? Why? What's wrong?
There's nothing wrong. You really want me to tell the world what you've been doing to me before we actually come on air?
All right. All right.
Too much room for imagination.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to tell us what he's been doing. Else, no, our minds can't wander.
Well, was that pinching?
Let your minds wander. It's good. That's the whole idea, to keep you.
Because what I saw was Barry was reading out the lineup to you.
Yeah.
And I was laughing. Well, I was excited.
He was reading it in pidgin.
Good morning. Thanks so much for staying there for us. Another wonderful Tuesday morning. We're grateful that you have joined us throughout your morning, and you will leave us at 9 a.m. And what Anthony said reminds me of what yesterday the exams council is talking about, that the guys are failing because they've been using paging in schools. Really, I kept thinking about it. Is it really the case?
I wouldn't want to say that should be the reason for their failure,
one of the
but I'm
reasons why
sure it's
most of them are
just
failing.
probably a very little, well, not little, but I think we've spoken about it even concerning text messaging and how people use shorthand and now can't string together, you know, good sentences. So I think it affects them to some extent, because now you're sitting in the room even thinking about how to spell there and where and those, you know, words that seem very familiar. And so I'm sure there's a difficulty there. But I don't think that will account for the totality of failures that they're, you know, having out there. But the English, we need to look at it critically, because the pidgin does affect what you're able to write. You know, we can't mark pidgin. Your exam is not supposed to be in pidgin or in shorthand for that matter. It's supposed to be good, comprehensive English. And it's all subject to the person who marks. If the person who's marking, even your handwriting, if it's not legible enough, the person will struggle, and then your grades would, you know, trail behind.
With the shorthand, I have a problem. Right. You know, I used to, you know, when WhatsApp came and was all the buzz and all around, I used to, you know, SMH and then the, you know, the shorthand. So it got to a point I couldn't spell certain words. Exactly. And you'd have to go on the internet, type it in before, because there were certain people you couldn't text shorthand to. You couldn't text shorthand to your boss and all of that. And then I realized, well, it's affecting me. It does. So if these students are doing it consistently,
and no,
then it's going to have an impact.
YX says that is what the chief examiners told them yesterday, that one of the causes of the mass failure, as we've been told. Yesterday we were told that 193,000 of those who wrote the WASI cannot go to the university. And the chief examiner said the pidgin is one of the reasons for the inability to pass certain key subjects. And I kept wondering, so what is the situation in Nigeria, where BBC has a whole network,
pidgin, dedicated to pidgin,
and I'm wondering what the impact will be in Nigeria on the students there, and how do we deal with this? Like AJ said, so you're so used to shortening your words on WhatsApp so that when you're writing an exam, you do same.
Unconsciously.
Not even unconsciously. Even you know it's an exam, so you're trying to, you know, get the whole word right, but you don't have the luxury of a dictionary or a phone by your side to cross-check the word. You know, so you just go with what you know.
The shorthand.
You know, it's more like...
No, I'll say unconsciously, because I remember there was a particular word, that. Instead of spelling it at that time, we knew the D and then, you know, the at symbol. And it was easy for us to be able to write notes, because, say, your teacher is dictating. And so in a hurry, I used to write that. But I realized at a point, I used to actually write it in my exam. And so it took me time to actually realize, because my teacher would point out and say, Amma, what word is this supposed to be? And he corrected me. And so I think it's unconscious, because for me, I would never want to write that in an exam where I know someone is going to mark my English. I would want to give off my best, of course, because it's showmanship. And so I think sometimes, because you've done it for so long, it becomes a part of you. You don't even think about it. It just comes out. And so prior to exam, I remember our teachers would constantly remind us, those of you who write shorthand, make sure now, at least maybe a month to exam, you're writing in full, spelling out your words, spell it in your mind. But so it's not for me. Again, even as Wayak has come to say this, I'm wondering, did the teachers also not know prior to time? And what did they do to also help these children? Because it's a real thing. It's out there.
Every
year they write exams. Yes, and they even write exams in school. So when you're marking their script, do you see it? Do you draw their attention to it? What does the school
should we teach our students shorthand?
Do?
The teachers, we teach them those who mark.
Right, that'll be a whole. They'll probably need a year to mark that because everyone makes their own, you know, shorthand as and when they want
the DAT, you said D and the art sign. Exactly. I knew the DAT.
See? So everyone will create their own and cause a lot of problems for them.
The news is coming up shortly after this. Good morning, my name is Anthony Jackson. Let's look at the headlines for this morning. Now, the minority in Parliament criticizes government over projections to increase taxes. Santehene Otunfo Seitu II challenges government to upgrade infrastructure at the country's universities to meet the growing demand for tertiary education. The youth of Azogli State in Volta region demand apology from MPP chairman over derogatory comment he made about the apparent chief. And Parliament approves 46 million euros for phase 2 of the University of Ghana Medical Center project. On the foreign front, President Trump defends Russia over claims of interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Let's start off from Parliament, where it has approved 46 million euros for the second phase of the University of Ghana Medical Center project in Accra. The two agreements, according to the Finance Committee report, are necessary to implement phase 2 of the project.
The two agreements are Ashra Exports and Tide Commercial between the Government of Ghana and Bank Hapolim. According to the Finance Committee's report, the funding is necessary as phase 2 would have to be complemented to enable the medical center run fully and also meet international standards. But the minority had issues, stating even phase 1, which had been completed, has still not been opened to the public.
Mr. Speaker, the online facility of which the Deputy Minister told the committee that they are not going to pursue that program is a bit worrying. Because if we have an online arrangement in place, an escrow account will be open so that those proceeds we put in that account we use to finance the facility.
The majority, however, argued the phase 2 is a complement of phase 1.
The phase 2 will enable the facility to have a cardiothoracic and vascular surgery center, which is needed for surgical emergencies. For trauma cases, you need such components to be able to treat such cases comprehensively.
Some minority members also insisted the agreement was 18 months late, adding the current government is simply finding a lot of wrong with the arrangement by the then government, reason why the center has still not been opened.
The Minister for Information, together with the Minister of Health, they said, 18th of July, it will be operational. As if because of what we are discussing now, it will be so. No. The facilities, all these things were already there. My worry is that because we are 18 months late, the amount we are going to get now, whether it will even be sufficient, if there are any changes in exchange rates and all that. And it is important that government should take responsibility and act quickly.
I'm happy to tell this House that as we speak, the ministry is taking adequate steps to ensure that the deadline which we set ourselves, that by the end of July, which is this month, the hospital will be operationalized.
Others also wanted an on-lending agreement on the loan in order to make accountability transparent. Before approval of the agreements, Minority Chief Whip lamented the consistent absence of the Finance Minister.
This meeting, the Minister of Finance has not been here even once. For how long are we going to be giving excuses? Mr. Speaker, I beg of you, let's stand this thing down for the Minister of Finance himself to come We are tired of this. Why?
They are congregating around the mid-year review.
Is he the one typing and correcting the typos?
The agreement has since been approved by the House.
And a minority in Parliament says government's intention to increase the value-added tax VAT will further worsen the plight of Ghanaians. At a roundtable discussion dubbed Mid-Year Economic Performance Review, the minority's perspective, the group blamed the ailing economy on the reckless nature by which government is implementing its numerous electioneering promises. Here's a report by Evelyn Tingma.
According to the minority, a document presented to the IMF by government on the budget review include an increment in VAT, but any such upward review will create more hardship for Ghanaians who they argued are already burdened.
So what it simply means is that the price of milk will go up immediately because there's a VAT on it. A cake of soap, the price will go up immediately because there's a new VAT on it. Anything that you were buying on the market that is tax imposed would see an increase in the tax, and yet your income remains the same.
Minority spokesperson on finance, Kaisel Atoforsen, said government is unable to fulfill its numerous campaign promises and is only engaging in what he termed shallow opportunism and populism to save its face.
We expect more unproductive anti-business killer taxes that the government is going to likely impose coming Thursday. This government inherited Ghana Infrastructure and Investment Fund. VAT proceeds of about 2.5% of the total VAT is supposed to go into the Ghana Infrastructure and Investment Fund. They have all of a sudden decided to stop allocating that money to the value-added to the Ghana Infrastructure and Investment Fund, and they have allocated it to the budget. So already the argument that they want additional 2.5% VAT to support the budget is flawed.
He said, apart from the VAT that government intends to increase, they are also aware of the introduction of minimum corporate tax and an upward review of the communication tax from 6 to 12%.
Government will soon burden workers and employees with 1.5% and 1% respectively. This increment would have been entirely unnecessary had government not taken the unwise decision to cap the accruals to the National Health Insurance Levy. It appears that the government is seeking to punish the poor taxpayer after its own flawed policies that had led to a cash crunch for the scheme.
On the country's debt talk, the minority said the MPP government had ballooned the public debt to 154 billion cedis from 122 billion cedis and projects more debt by close of 2018.
We in the minority project that in the year 2018 alone, the government will be adding about 25 billion to the public debt stock. Indeed, this will take us above the 70% threshold of a debt-distressed country.
The finance minister is expected to present the mid-year review budget to Parliament on Thursday.
Now, 3 labor unions say any decision by government to increase taxes in the mid-year budget review will further erode the monthly income of workers and their pension contributions. The National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, the Teachers and Education Workers Union, TEU, and the Civil and Local Government Staff Association, CLOSAC, are proposing that government rather widens the tax net.
President of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, Angel Kabonu, was disturbed about the possible reintroduction of taxes, citing media reports which suggested an increase in VAT to 21% from the current 17.5%. Angel Kabonu argued that any increase in taxes will erode benefits of pensioners.
There are several economic activities going on in this country that have not been targeted by government. People are making huge sums of money out of those economic, and then you and I, whose salaries come on monthly basis, are taxed heavily. At the 15% of our salaries go to income tax. That is the problem formal sector workers, either in private sector or public sector, once we can be identified, they take the tax before the salary is given to us. And it's affecting us adversely.
The General Secretary of the Teachers and Education Workers Union, TEWU, Augustine Cabo, expressed concern any increase would impact negatively on the income of workers.
When I go to work and by the end of the month, my salary is paid, it's deducted already. So I have no option to choose whether to pay or not. There are many rich men and women in this country who are not paying taxes. So those who have more, they should pay and leave the poor workers out.
Executive Secretary of the Civil and Local Government Staff Association, Isaac Bampuado, suggested to government to rather widen the tax net.
Not only those in the informal, but even the formal. Go to the universities, go to the polytechnics, go to the health institutions. User fees, who is accounting for? You ask yourself, these monies, are they being paid into the consolidated fund? These institutions will embark on expenditure without parliamentary approval. Because I have to send my budget to Parliament to approve before I spend.
However, the three unions have rejected the proposed 1% levy to be imposed on the National Health Insurance Scheme.
We told the National Health Insurance that the formal sector workers cannot be the only group of people targeted to finance the National Health Insurance. So we rejected it. Anyone who says that we accepted it is deceiving the government. Workers rejected it.
For us as working people and as a working workers leader, I really do not buy into the National Health Insurance levy being increased.
Nobody has discussed anything with us. Why they think it's not sustainable, why they think we've run out of cash for the NHIS. Because I'm paying, automatically it's being deducted from my salaries. And he said I should go and pay more. Why you've not justified to me what you've done with the 1%. I think it's very wrong.
Sector Minister of Finance, Ken Oforiatta, is expected to present the mid-year budget review to Parliament on Thursday.
Founding President of Imani Africa, Franklin Cudjoe, says any attempt by government to impose any more taxes will impede the economic freedom of the populace. At an audit of Ghana's economic freedom, he suggested reforms in government structure and prudent management of the economy to promote growth and development.
Ghana ranked 103rd out of the 159 nations on the Economic Freedom of the World Index. This follows a measurement of the country's size of government and taxation, its legal systems, gender disparity, trade regulations, as well as business and labor regulations. According to the index, in the early 2000s, Ghana had a great purse in economic freedom, which contributed to its growth. Unfortunately, due to certain fundamentals adopted by various governments, the growth is retarding.
Size of government, for instance, has declined. There have been some setbacks in regulation. So a full frontal press is needed to move ahead. All the areas that haven't declined also haven't increased. So pushing ahead in all areas is important.
On the size of government and taxation, Imani Ghana said it would be wrong on government's part to introduce and increase taxes.
We should not allow this government to increase any tax in order to support free SHS, because they were warned and advised that there were people who could pay for their own wards, and that the best thing to do was to do means testing and identify those who can pay, so that they'll free resources in order to invest in other areas of education. It will be very gravely wrong for the government to introduce any form of additional taxes at all, especially to feed its insatiable expansionist agenda of one district, one factory. It doesn't make sense to put a factory in every district.
Franklin Cudjoe further lamented on some of government exemptions giving out to companies.
You cannot be asking for more taxes when you have exemptions in the region of almost 2.6 billion cedis as of at the end of 2017, when you promised you only give tax exemptions of about 932 million cedis. What were those exemptions used for? Did they add value to the economy?
The think tank called for reforms in government structure to ensure economic freedom and prudent management of the economy for growth and development.
Now, the Institute of Energy Security, IES, is projecting an increase in fuel prices this month. The institute cites the recent increment in the price of crude on the world market and the rate of depreciation of the Ghana cedi as the basis for its forecast. The energy think tank, however, says the plight of consumers can be mitigated if the National Petroleum Authority, NPA, activates the price stabilization and recovery levy mechanism. Now, the Asante-Hene Otumfuo II has challenged government to upgrade infrastructure in universities to meet the growing demand for tertiary education. Addressing the 52nd congregation of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Kumasi, he noted the free SHS policy would double the number of students seeking admission into tertiary institutions.
The Asante-Hene Otumfuo II, who is also the Chancellor of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, lauded the introduction of the free senior high school policy, but tasked stakeholders in the education sector to come out with measures to deal with the imminent increase in demand for university education.
The potential increase in enrollment at the tertiary level will require a corresponding increase in resources, both financial and human, to be able to cope with the student numbers. The time to act is now. I therefore call on the Ministry of Education, the National Council for Tertiary Education, and the Vice Chancellor's Ghana to get it to the drawing board and start planning on how to effectively handle this imminent increase in demand for university education in the country.
Vice Chancellor of KNUST, Professor Kwesi Obri Danso, said additional classrooms were under construction to meet the increasing intake.
And a 9-story College of Art and Built Environment complex, which will altogether deliver classroom spaces of 15,000 more, which means that there will be 15,000 more students to be admitted in addition to our normal 12,000 students.
The Minister of Education, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, expressed government's determination to ensure that qualified students are not denied higher education.
No child qualified from this year's BEC, worthy of getting a place in a senior high school, will stay at home. If it so means that we change the school calendar, if it so means that we change the school's curricula, if it so means that we change the school's term, we shall ensure that every qualified child gets a place in a secondary.
6,528 students graduated this year, out of which 5,848 were undergraduates. 680 graduated with masters, while 61 were awarded their terminal degree of a PhD.
Let's head over to the Volta region, where the youth of the Azogli state are demanding an apology from the chairman of the MPP, Freddie Blay, over derogatory comments he made about their paramount chief or incur their wrath. Spokesperson for the group was enraged about what they described as a despicable comments from the MPP chair and are demanding nothing less than an apology.
Some time ago, it was one party building a multi-million-dollar headquarters. We all sat down and did not complain. And more recently, is some aspiring chairman of a party buying several 225 vehicles. These are matters that should attract an attention. And I'm very happy that at least the later one has attracted the attention of the special prosecutor.
This comment from the overlord of the Azogli state under the president of the National House of Chiefs on what had become the most topical issue discussed by the Ghanaian media attracted this rebuttal from the NPP chairman.
The way Afede says what? He says perception of corruption and vote buying. I'm disturbed. I find it that maybe he doesn't understand what he's talking about. In his position as president of the House of Chiefs in this country, Maybe from nowhere he's also risen to become president. Or he has become a big businessman in this country. Maybe he has never asked for loans. He got the money all from selling palm wine to get to there. Maybe I'm also sweeping streets and I've had that ideas. Why not? Or he prefers only to be the only person.
The aftermath of an MPP conference after heavy criticisms were leveled against the chairman of the party over the purchase of some 275 buses whose arrival coincided with the conference. An enraged youth of the Asogli state have expressed disappointment over comments by the MPP chair.
The youth of the Asogli state wish to remind him to do the honorable thing so as not to incur the wrath of the youth.
A charged youth who are bent on protecting their overlord from any vicious attack.
We cannot fathom how such a harmless admonition from our overlord could attract such harsh and abusive words from a person of Mr. Blaise standing. Besides, we fail to understand why his party, the NPP, has refused to comment on Mr. Blaise's response.
Let's do some international news. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has defended Russia over claims of interference in the 2016 presidential election after face-to-face talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Mr. Trump contradicted U.S. intelligence agencies and said there had been no reason for Russia to meddle in the vote. Well, that's it for news for this morning. New Day returns shortly after the break.
Thanks for sticking and staying with us. Let me use this opportunity to wish our boy here a very happy birthday, George Chestnut. It's his birthday. We wish you all the best and may God richly bless you. But let's do the newspaper headlines. Daily Guide says BOG announced ADB sale. Then also KK Prepra picks doctorate degree and probe oil deals. Occupy Ghana is telling the government. Also, Charlotte Osei hired lawyers without a contract. What exactly does Daily Guide have to say about that? And then finally, Cocoa Board scandal, Opuni trial begins. These stories are all on Daily Guide, so you should grab your copy this morning to find out what it says. Daily Statement also has these stories saying Occupy Ghana calls for probe into alleged corruption at BOST. Then Opuniva later laid down rules. That's coming from the first state witness. And then also in Daily Statement, there's a story on how ethnicity nailed the NDC, the Ewe and Fanti plot that tore the NDC after Rawlins. You should grab a copy if you want to find out exactly what they have to say. Then Ghanaian Times also says a double intake of BECE students. That's coming from Professor Anamwa Mensah. Also, ex-President Mahama leads 24-member Commonwealth Observer mission to Zimbabwe. Then Ghana tops West Africa 2017 Economic Freedom in World Index, being the 103rd in position. Then also, we are against tax increases. That's coming from Imani. Of course, many Ghanaians are also opposing the tax increments that are being proposed by government. Today newspaper says Ghana's economy doomed. That's Ken Oforiata's picture there in a very pensive mood. Also, Opuni trial begins, and then Lotto marketers apologize to the NLA boss. Interesting stories captured by the Today newspaper. You should definitely grab a copy there. Then Business and Financial Times says PPA says it saved country 553 million Ghana cedis in 3 months. Also, the state of corporate reporting and governance of listed companies. Then 2 million senior high school students, entrepreneurs to be supported by government. Then depositors running away from local banks as confidence drops to all-time low. Over 5,000 jobs are on the line. Also, tax cuts haunt Oforiata and the mid-year budget is set for Thursday. Then Bank of Ghana capping bank Capos Turner has been hailed. Interesting stories there in the Business and Financial Times. Then Finder says Bank of Ghana annuls 51% ADB shares. says they were acquired with over 300 million cedis. Emergency Liquidity Bank of Ghana gave to Unibank. Interesting there. Then also plans to increase taxes are unacceptable. That's coming from the minority. Then the World Bank supports Ghana with $60 million to improve energy and tourism sectors. Then AMA BRGRS to begin road safety enhancement works at La Paz. You remember TV3 has carried a story on the La Paz highway and many accidents that have been caused there. We hope this will certainly curb some of those accidents. Then also probe missing 1.4 billion cedis fuel money. Occupy Ghana is asking governments to do so. So these are all the stories carried on our front lines this morning, and we'll touch on those interesting stories. Right.
I think the tax stories on the paper is quite exciting, and it's attracting a lot of commentary. I think government finds itself in a very tight situation, but I think it is not anything that is beyond ability to do. If all we need is an honest and sincere report of what has happened so far. You see, there's nothing wrong with paying taxes, right, but what is wrong is when the people are demanding certain answers to questions and they don't come. Yeah. So for instance, one of which is that the NPP promised this country that when we come to power, we will not do what our predecessors did, taxing people. What we will do is that we will industrialize, we'll use production to be able to raise revenue. So for me, the simplest thing the government has to do is to just come and tell Ghanaians that, look, we have gone to sit down and looked at the industrialization process. It is going to take us a lot of time to be able to get to where we can create that industry that will generate revenue. Now, so before we reach there, we want to do some taxation to be able to raise revenue. So for me, I think it is based on honesty. Right. The politician has been seen not to tell the truth for a very long time. And for me, I think that this is an opportunity for the MPP to indeed let the people know of the change, how different we're going to do things that they have always spoken about. Tell the people the truth. Let them know that you said we'll use production to generate revenue. But from the look of things, it is not possible. So we're going to go into taxation to be able to get revenue. Look, we know the situation. If anyone in Ghana says that he or she doesn't know how dire the situation is, he should try and check out what's happening to the senior high school. Right. Money is needed to fix it. There are other sectors that needs money. The only way out is to tax the people. Look, the NHIS can only be sustainable if we pay more. If we don't, the system will crash and it will get onto our head. So let the people know the truth. And then once the people know the truth, then they will accept the tax increment. Other than that, for me, I really do not see. And I'm telling you, if I were the NPP, I will shelve some promises that is eating deep into government coffers. Some campaign promises I think should be shelved for now. And later on, when there is revenue, there is funding, there is resources, then we can go back to it. Don't rush into doing the thing when the thing to do the thing is not there. Okay, for me, that's key for me.
Successive government, you talk about telling the truth, tell Ghanaians the truth. Ghanaians have always known the truth, but the people who actually cover up the truth are the very politicians who find themselves in these dire situations. You're coming into office and you really don't know the state of affairs, and yet you go on around campaign promises, I mean, talking about some monies that you know is available and which I think you only postulate per what you think. And it's always easy for you in a position to give big quotes and say, oh, the money is there and we're going to work it up. And, you know, Dr. Baumia is an economist and a good one at that. And he's been at the forefront of telling the, former government how they could have managed the resources that were allocated to them. And so likewise, in coming into office, everyone gave you the chance because probably they thought you had the way out. You knew how to do it. Right. And so I agree with you that Ghanaians know that we need some sort of revenue, but how it's going to come about is what we don't know, and it's government to propose how to do that. However, we don't think at this particular point increasing the taxes is what would solve the issue. Why do I say this? Because over time you have chided the past governments in not increasing taxes and telling them that they shouldn't. And, you know, over time, nuisance taxes were quoted and you promised that you were going to cut down the taxes. And so I'm expecting that as you come into office, you have another way. You have another mechanism that you're going to use to solve this issue. They started off with, you know, blocking the loopholes by trying to take everything digital so that at least the human interface will be cut down, and then we'll plug these loopholes and bring in more revenues. If this didn't work, then what does that mean? It means that there's other strategies you still need to employ, of which maybe the increment in taxes would be. At this point, could you just humble yourself enough to tell Ghanaians what the real situation is? Because
exactly.
As MPP has been in office, genuinely speaking, I've had a lot of communication and a lot of talk, but it hasn't really been about what they're doing and how they're going to do it to be able to convince Ghanaians to come along with them. For people to elect you into power means you have some goodwill. It means they have some confidence in you and some hope in you to be able to deliver. At this point, I really think MPP will take a cue from past governments and say enough is enough. It's not just about getting votes in the next year. Right. It's also about getting people to trust us that what we say we will do, we will do. If at this point you've reached, you know, a bridge and you need to cross it, but the way we thought we could have crossed it is not the way it is now. Can we find a way? Can you agree with us that when we do these tax increments, we're not going to waste your money, as it were. We're going to put it into, say, free SHS. And if my child is in free SHS and I know she's going to benefit from it, do you think I would buy into the idea? I would. NHIS, where we're struggling right now, people cannot go to the hospitals and deliver for free and pick their bags and go home anymore, which used to be in Kufuor's time. Can we say now, because we see these issues are pending and because all Ghanaians will want to enjoy that kind of freedom when it comes to medical access, can we change the strategy? Can you buy into our idea? Because we are promising you that we're not going to waste your resources. We're going to, you know, put it into ABCD. I keep saying it comes down to communication. If you communicate to the people and they don't feel like you're taking them for granted or, you know, taking them for a fool, they will come along with you. Can we get to that point where this MPP government will be honest with all Ghanaians just to buy into the idea?
It's very simple. I mean, I
have... It is very simple.
I have heard the debate about to pay or not to pay. Look, we cannot decide, we cannot do away with taxes. We need the taxes to develop the country. But you see, the point is that, for instance, if you want to make, let's say, 1% increase in VAT, that's okay. Okay, that's okay. But anything for me, apart from 1% or above 1%, is worrying. 1% is okay. But convince me that when I give you the 1%, how do you use that tax to go and pay for the senior high school fee of 275 members of parliament? How? You are asking for 1% VAT. And what you're going to use that VAT to do is to pay the fees of 275 members of parliament, okay? Chief directors of ministries, ministers of state and their deputies, chief executives of companies, both private and even me, okay? How do you get that money and use to go and pay the fees of these persons? It is not fair, okay? You cannot convince me, for instance, that all the paramount chiefs in Ghana cannot pay their sons or daughters' school fees at the senior high school level. You can't convince me. If they cannot, it is a responsibility. All the 275 MPs, if they cannot pay their sons or daughters' fees at the senior high school level, it is a responsibility. All the chief directors of the ministries that we have, if they cannot pay their sons or daughters' fees at SHS level, it is here a responsibility. Okay? Look at all the CEOs that we have. Board chairpersons. Why do you pay their children's school fees? And so the key point is that, look, we have gotten to a point where we need to be frank and open and honest that this is the situation. Okay, we will pay the taxes, but we want to know that you are going to use the taxes very, very judiciously. Don't take the tax and go and use to pay for something that, for me, is unnecessary. We should begin to take a look at this thing and genuinely say that, look, we promised ABCD. What we have realized is that we are unable to do ABCD. We'll do only E and hold on ABCD. After all, what? You have the power, and so what? Are we going to say that, well, because you promised to do A and you have not done it, we are coming to take the power from you? No, it's not possible. So for me, we've gotten to a point where genuinely we should come out, be open and honest, and tell Ghana the truth, and then we'll get everybody following. I saw Ghanaian Times, Imani says that it is against taxes. If you read the story, the caption, you ask why is Imani against taxes. But I'm sure if you read the story, it will give you reasons why they are against increases in taxes, and those reasons, when you take a look at them, I think will be legitimate. So let us sit down and take a look at it. Other than that, we'll just be running around doing nothing. That's it.
We certainly will. But anyway, let's move on and rant about WASSCE. Indeed, some 90,000 students have failed their SHS exam, and some of the attributable reasons are the fact that they use pidgin in writing the exam. This is very worrying. But let's see what you have to say as we rant with Eric.
The 2018 provisional results for WASSCE are in, and they are very disturbing. We are told that some 190,000 candidates may not be able to gain admission into the various universities because they failed in the mathematics paper. We are also told that some chief examiners have expressed grave worry that some of the candidates used pidgin language to answer the English paper. This morning on Daily Rant with me, Eric Yewuje, we want to find out what is accounting for the perennial failures in the WASSCE. This is your Daily Rant.
This number of candidates, where to fail BEC in the area of math, science, and then the other subjects. On your students in the per se, we should look at the teachers, the methodology of teaching, and the type of questions what's said in then there is a missing link somewhere that must be checked, because the failure rate is so massive and so disturbing as a country.
Then these people went to one pass the result, the exams. It means that our educational system either say there is something wrong, what they share, because this political party will come and say, oh, they were in 3 years. It used to be about they were in 4 years. So, you could see, say, maybe you might having a 4-year certificate, I'm having a 3-year certificate. You control the same exams, but it's not. So, if the politicians or the government must sit up and look at our educational sector and implement a certain policy, to me, education to me, then I don't think we'll face these challenges in this country.
Okay. There be a report. Everyone school be or try a ICT. Now, so students, won't computer that. And such a student, how do you expect the person to pass?
On America, there is a problem with our education system. If science, ICT is the way to go, as we always say it, then the state actors must put in what it deserves, what that sector deserves, so that we can achieve whatever we want to achieve in that area. Go to the technical schools, they don't have the learning materials. So how do you expect the American school be what a whole computer teacher in why as well drawn about another channel from nation? We want to progress in this area of science and technology. We are not investing in it. How do you expect the children to learn and then to deliver and to come and help the economy of the country as we are talking of?
Senor Bibeka said, what is mouse? Mouse, what draw board no? When you mother mouse no ye. But mouse on nim at the crack or there or play a computer no. Atasa, baby or light in po when you be. Teacher Nina did not cut to also on your man or concentrate because Nisi Kanisha. Into also or to me, baby, our farm, and also our land or the year farming. Into no being engaged students, I'm on also a buona menena Nisika. Supervisors, how many times do they go there to supervise? Your supervisors, our educational sector, go and ask, say, they be almost eco supervise teachers are register almost supervise. Akwala number because of one man in farm in general so marking absent and fan ho sa akwala number be sua de na say onsua de teacher ni bi ba or the katkekaba or ton oba or farm akwaje contract o ye say inti na mama akwala no concentration na akọ commercial activities ho enko adesua no ho.
Let's look at teacher student relationship. Nancy or quite common everyone what's the teacher ni onyin students ada teacher ni onyin students ada nti obi a onyin hihye wode so e bonu kwampa enwo do ontum ontian nti enwo the lower classroom na any attention no onido
to the American The teachers were the role models in society. Safraba to the new teacher ribo baby o shebebu na no ho popo odo okosuma because teachers were highly respected in our societies. But in the Nobaka, the morality bia is going down, and even those who have to be the eyes of the society are doing what is not expected of them. And this is what we have to go back and think through as society. Teachers, what can the teacher?
Teachers for Nankasa, when you students and Cabrafo. Teachers Nankasa, Boko school, you know, the students there, no, they don't speak English with the teachers, and the teachers too, they don't speak English with them because they see them. So when in our level, you make a level watch, one height now, then I say where they go, come here, you come here. So they are also happy speaking the pidgin with them. It has so if they begin to speak the English language with them now, once we are picking it gradually, even when you time what the bachelor the composition, comprehension, and then catch will be the untrolated. I find it difficult.
For me, I think that we still have a problem with how to manage technology as we are seeing it these days with our education system. Technology is a good thing, but how we manage it for the benefit of the students who are coming, in my view, is a problem. To the point that we had 46,000 students. 46,000 students failing. You know the number? Just like the entire Sekenita crowded people. Everybody failing at once. You and I know the implication. Very dangerous and daring. So, and the same situation happened last year. The same bad results happened last year. 46,000 students had D, which basically means that they can't go to any school that they want. So in my view, we need to look critically at how we are handling these devices in the hands of our students. So how you manage it is the problem now. If you don't do that, look, we will come back here next year, discuss another challenge with students using PLS as police. It can even be worse going forward in 2019 and the years beyond.
So we share results about me and Kasami who be on internet so near Niamana Kana. Ayatete ihu se enkwada se be yoma wo fo abo mo ho kado o maku school pa na se nei o mekwa akofa saa enema we no mo de abefie dia na kire se nya ni nyina de eye saa WhatsApp ne saa technology ne nema na aba no yesi ene nkwada no saa o mo twere nzo hwe no krampa o mo de shorthand ne saa nema na o WhatsApp ne no mo de twere e ba ne saa enye man as a country. Because say yana your future leaders no kwode ana enya me gidi say ye kwa yanimu no enkwada no senke be ye krampa me de enke wo senka wudru baabi ansa na yetumi ama wa hwe say WhatsApp ne krampa obe use bi.
How do we regulate the times that our students get the phones and use them such that it doesn't become their life such that at that level they tend to addiction completely. That's the word. Addiction. They are addicted now. So question, how many of our parents know the times that our or his or her child picks the device? What do they do, and what time do they put it down? How many times do they spend on books? Is it the same as that of the time they spend on phones? If a parent answers this as no, you don't even know when your children be using these things, then it means it can start from the home. Parents should begin looking at that. You should know that my child has the phone from 11 to say 2. That time you, the parent, can control it or manage it. Then you give the books some time as well. That for me is the way. Then in the school situation, teachers themselves should also be conscientizing students and let them know that, look, this is a reality. Social media has come. But the way and manner you manage yourself is the difference. So they need to fix, teachers should also have that conscientization exercise with the students so that it doesn't affect them in their final critical life transitioning exams.
What is the way forward?
Mpenimfo yi krampo no. Se o tore bia o tro letter ana o tro bibi krampo o de pen e tro o paper so a. Ohun se sa WhatsApp ne sa nema na sa shortcut na we o tro no. Obun se owura fi ho na o tro bi wo so. It means they say ade a aba be part of eyi nyina. And into Roma Quaquay and Qualasa, and say, yes, I didn't show my sense. It didn't get a year. A yomo mundru baby. ebienka university level na nke ama mashasi AUC sa funds no but sen kwada no wo fie omuko school sen kwada JSS ne primary school for no omu UC sa WhatsApp ne we say ne de chale
me eco advanced level eco advanced countries are children as low as base 6 9 10 they are on their computers, they are on their phones, they are on their tablets and problem behind you
on say ohwe the difference between Ghana and yen omo maka ya wo kan ya as a management as a control so oko oye broni ba ana say wo baby ana different crampo na say wo fia your site be your hono crampa phone na e dey ama no you are not able to go to that particular site but in Ghana no dey ba dey na ehu baby a utumi wura bi opa bi a utumi ye ndi say ebredu say yetumi aye saade no amankwada no anambo say baby o hono mo aye application bi hono mo bitumi use at some time bi your application bi o hono mo unni some age bi a untumi use a sa restrictions ne ba eno mumbeboa.
That is how bad the people I have with me here think our educational system is turning into. They've proffered some solutions. This has been Daily Rant with me, Eric Yoje. You can also go onto our various social media platforms and post your comments there.
Welcome back to New Day. And the media budget review attracting a lot of space on the newspapers this morning, and we certainly will take a look at the fallout from the debate whether to increase taxes or not. The minority appeals to government, don't raise taxes. That's how the Daily Graphic put it. The Today newspaper says Ghana's economy doomed. And the Daily Guide has the Oponi trial. It says it begins. That's the story. Now, my guest to do the talking this morning, the Member of Parliament for the Asin South constituency of the Central Region, is a member of the NPP, Reverend John Tim Fojo is here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hope you're good.
By the grace of God. We thank God for giving us another day to live for him. Yeah.
You'll be missing for some time. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And then a former Deputy Trade and Industry Minister, former Member of Parliament for the Nanton constituency, Comrade Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed is also here. Good morning too.
Good morning.
You are doing great.
Inshallah, we can't complain in this mess.
Thanks for your time.
Created by incompetence and corruption.
All right. Now let's start the conversation this way. The papers this morning paying a lot of attention to the media budget review on Thursday. The minority in Parliament, that's the Daily Graphic, has raised concerns about the intention of the government to increase taxes, saying such a move will worsen the plight of businesses and households. It said the economy was already performing badly with increasing inflation, a falling cedi, and increases in fuel prices and transport fares, which has resulted in hardship for the people. It therefore urged government to rather widen the tax net and ensure compliance with revenue collection. Yesterday, I held a press conference in Accra, and Mr. Forson, the ranking member on the Finance Committee, said the current crisis confronting the managers of the economy, compelling them to impose a raft of heavy taxes on the already burdened populace, is self-imposed. He said that these taxes will no doubt hit Ghanaian households and businesses very hard and further erode the already dwindling disposable incomes. All this is happening at a time of great waste and profligacy by the government. Those are the words of Mr. Toforson, ranking member of the Finance Committee of Parliament. A lot of issues on the budget this morning. Let's start the conversation on it. Now, Honorable Tim Fojo, is the minority jumping the gun? That has been the concerns of some, that we are yet to hear the finance minister talk about increasing taxes, and yet the minority is going ahead suggesting that the man will increase taxes on Thursday. Is the minority jumping the gun?
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here once again. Good morning to our cherished viewers. I must convey my special greetings to Ehunabo Brim Nana Prajinsem, the Paramount Chief of Orange Traditional Area, and a happy 70th anniversary to the State of Israel. And I stand in solidarity with the State of Israel and the good people of Israel, and happy 70th anniversary once again. And congratulations to my good friend, Comrade Mutala, on the birth of his third child, third child and second son. Yes,
we're waiting for the outcome.
And congratulations to you and your wife for the blessings that the Lord has given you. The Bible says that children are heritage; they are gifts from God, and so I'm happy for you that you've had another son. Yeah. Now, in respect of the mid-year review that we are holding ourselves in readiness to receive and discuss, which I'm very optimistic that it holds a lot of reliefs, it holds a lot of hope and progress for the economy, and is going to further build on the right footing that this economy has been positioned. I'm not surprised that the minority, again, are at it and speculating and, going on the trajectory of making certain predictions which had eroded their credibility in time past. You recall how they had ahead of our SEPA budget and ahead of the media review and ahead of this particular year's economic policy and budget statement. Some predictions were done, and it turned out they were all false, and that is a concern to me because now democratic dispensation, the credibility of principal actors as the minority is key. And consistently, when you give out information that turn out to be false, even when you turn out to give something very credible, no one takes it seriously. That is my concern. Thursday is just some few hours, 72 hours or 48 hours, to come, and they should be patient. And I would want to side with those who claim that the minority will eat a humble pie come Thursday, when the full media review is presented. Then we'll be able to discuss that. For now, I wouldn't want us to discuss speculations and false predictions by the minority, but to put some of the concerns in perspective. You recall that as we inherited a rather backward and very challenged and distressed economy, which was growing at dwindling 3.5%, being in the midst of oil production and all that, and one interest rate, policy rate was hovering above 25.5%, and that has been reduced as we speak. Policy rate is around 17%, and growth was increased to 8.5%, and we've seen inflation reduced from 16% to 10%, and we have seen many aspects of the economy expand. This is the macro physical space, setting it right and providing that foundation even for the private sector to expand and have that space to be able to thrive. Reducing energy tariffs, electricity tariffs, residential for 17.5%, non-residential 30%, and for special load users 10%. These have been very huge reliefs that have cushioned the economy. And I am not surprised that the world over very notable institutions have acknowledged and recognized Ghana's fast economic recovery, the transformational policies that had been put in place, and is bringing the economy on the right footing. I cannot sit here and pretend that, considering the 8-year backwardness and the stressed economic situation that the previous administration plunged the country in, we can't recover in the space of 1.6 years. In the space of less than 2 years, we cannot fully recover. But we have started on a very good footing, and the gains are beginning to yield. Now, again, when it comes to taxation, we must remind ourselves that the principle that the NPP government, President Akufo-Addo, has embraced is moving away from taxation to production. Correct. And you recall, and we are going to be very consistent with that, you recall that the 15 nuisance taxes were abolished. And this could have run into over nearly 2 billion revenue for the country. But this had to be relieved such that it becomes money that will remain in pockets. For instance, the 17.5% VAT on domestic airlines Hitherto you would have paid it. You would have paid it if you were traveling to Tamale or Kumasi. You would have paid that. But that is savings in your pocket. When we talk about abolishment of the special import levy, we have even Kaya were taxed, and you can chronicle all these taxes, 15 of them, and the over 2 billion that could have been received and were indeed received in the previous regime, and one wonders the utilization of same. But we have been able to. As I always put it, economic management is a matter of options available to you and which one that you feel works best for the economy, which one that you decide upon all rational analysis is best to the people that have voted you in power and looking up to you to serve their aspirations and their interests. Now, let us also, acknowledge again the free SHS that has been introduced. One cannot boast in the previous administration for 8 years, and then from 92 to 2000, and from 2009 to 2016, a single social intervention policy that was established. Now, within the space of less than 1.5 years, we have free SHS providing relief to nearly 400,000 students. Now, the savings for a parent whose child has been admitted into SHS is nearly 3,000 cedis a term. That can be used to purchase more charcoal for sale if they are into charcoal sale. That can be used to purchase more corn for their cocoa business. That can be used to purchase more farm implements. This is savings. Now, let me also draw our minds.
Wrap up for me.
Yes,
let me get
that
for
the subsidies that Ghanaians enjoyed in fertilizer subsidies and the subsidies we enjoyed in the planting for food and jobs, and the electricity tariffs that have been cut, plus the implementation of free SHS, the restoration of the teacher training allowance, the restoration of the nurses training allowance. This has brought a capital injection in excess of 2.8 billion. And this could have been, one could have decided, as was done previously. It wasn't done previously. So what it means is that the previous government had available to them in excess of nearly 3 billion cedis that was expected to have been channeled into proper utilization for us all to benefit. But that was not seen. In all these, we concede that yes, indeed, our revenue mobilization had been challenged, as was seen over the years, and this has even performed better. And that still remains a challenge that we all must, discuss and find solutions to ensure that we broaden the tax net, we find more effective revenue mobilization strategies in a manner that will not burden, the citizenry, in a manner that will not be counterproductive to the philosophy of moving away from taxation to production. And these are the discussions and the brilliant options that are being considered. And I would not preempt the content of the media review, particularly in respect of tax, tax policies. But I would want to assure the public that it will contain policies that will build further on the already brilliant economic.
Quickly before I go to just 10 seconds to answer this if you can. Now, if for instance, Dr. Arno, who is the CEO of the Health Insurance Authority, comes out to suggest that he needs at least 1% more of what we pay to him in order to the scheme, in order to make it sustainable, and the minority based on that looks into the future and says this budget might be one of tax increases, would you still say that the minority is jumping the gun? Dr. Arno started all this issue about asking for 1% more in order to make the NHIS sustainable.
We all acknowledge that one of the biggest challenges of the National Health Insurance Scheme has been financial.
Yes, which is true.
But
I'm saying that
and in the midst of
he started asking for more. So if the minority also says that this media review might be full of tax increases, would you fault them?
I cannot fault anyone's opinion. But the credibility, I cannot fault. Everyone has their opinion to express. But what I'm saying is that they have antecedents. The records show that at every budget presentation or media review, they had come with some very frivolous, speculations which turned out not true. But again, on NHIS, I want NHIS
come to talk about
that.
We'll come to. It's
you
a
remember
topic.
That there was a 1.2 billion debt, a 1.2 billion cedis debt that was left in the midst of all the taxes that was available in the previous
and it has
regime.
been paid?
And has been paid. That
Okay,
has been
all right.
paid.
Okay.
But, so if they have genuine financial challenges, this is new.
Okay.
This is something that has been trending.
Okay, all right.
We have
Let me get Comrade in.
amidst all the nuisance tax abolition.
Okay.
To have been able to raise 1.2 billion to settle that.
All right.
So
I'm grateful.
So
Comrade,
that has
he's
to be
spoken at
acknowledged.
length, but the concerns.
I guess
yes.
you give me.
I'll give you time to
respond.
the concerns. One of which is that the minority is jumping the gun. The minister has not said anything.
First and foremost, it is not true that this government paid any 1.2 billion NHI.
But the president said
I listened.
The president said he's paid.
Please, that was a lie, and that was not the first time.
How's that a lie?
That was not the first time the president would peddle such falsehood. The same president told us that they had expunged names from the Controller and Accountant General and saved this nation several hundreds of millions of cedis. When it turned out that it was a lie, it took the Minister for Defense to come out and apologize. The same president went and announced, that reduction of tariffs on electricity for hairdressers and others, when they pointed out to the president that there wasn't any electricity tariffs on such component. The president didn't have the decency to apologize to the people of this country. So he's noted for that. Initially, I thought it was the vice president who didn't have any respect for the truth. Sadly, His Excellency, the president, is a member of that unpopular party of not giving respect to the truth. But let me state clearly that it is not true that this government paid any 1.2 billion
that is
Ghana
true.
cedis.
That is
As
true.
a matter of fact, can I finish?
And I'm surprised that you're allowing that falsehood to be
evidence.
Don't grant that. You have run stories. You have done your checks.
Reverend Fadjo, you allow
some of the points you are making were extremely nauseating. I had the patience and the decency.
Propaganda can be allowed,
Reverend
but
Fadjo,
when facts and figures stand, you cannot change facts and figures.
Reverend Fadjo, you allow.
Your people will be very disappointed in you.
The president said he's paid. If you have any counter evidence,
can you allow journalists? You have done your checks and you confirm that.
Okay, go ahead.
So why would you accept this?
Oh, you see, I can't do this more than you are doing.
But
at least you should grow up. Look, let me tell you. No such monies were paid. His Excellency the President announced that they had cleared all arrears of NHI, which was 1.2 billion. Per the act establishing NHI, it's not possible not NHI to exist without arrears. Per the act that you need to have 3 months. So ab initio, it was a lie for a president to say that we've cleared all arrears. That is not even true.
Is it not possible some might have been paid?
Can I finish?
Or
please?
you have counter evidence to suggest
that
it was not paid at all?
If you allow me.
Okay, go ahead.
You allowed him to flow.
You go ahead.
So allow me to. Please.
Go ahead.
I am saying that the fact that the act establishing NHI itself it's not possible for you not to have arrears. For a president to say that they paid all the arrears was a lie.
No one is
that's one. Two, please. That was please. The president said they paid. Two. At the very time the president made that statement, service providers came out and said that 18 months they were not paid. Service providers. Your government, your incompetent and corrupt government, never challenged what the service providers said. So without any shame, the president was mute. Service providers said 18 months we haven't been paid. So that is a lie. Two. This government paid 280 million Ghana cedis out of the 1.2 billion they were talking about.
That's how much it was
Yes,
paid.
and even before that, at the time the president had made this announcement, they had incurred extra 800 million. Extra 800. Take 280 out of 1.2 billion and add 800. And we were vindicated by the pronouncement and statements issued by service providers. Because you could easily calculate the service providers we have and how much we owe. You sit here without any shame and you want to reiterate that absolute lie. I think that for the fact that people didn't want to push it because of the decency and the sanctity of the office of the president when they knew that the president was lying. So please don't go there. The other issue is that he just raised an issue. He said that the NDC never introduced any social intervention project. Oh God. Policies. Sometimes, please, policies or programs or projects. Can I beg you?
Catalog them.
If you don't respect us, respect the viewing public.
You
are doing that.
Reverend, if you can allow him to go.
It must be put on record. I haven't interrupted him. If he has troubles articulating his propaganda, that is his problem.
Comrade, you go on. Reverend, please allow him.
You know why I'm asking you? You have to tame him. Tame him.
Reverend, please allow him to go.
We deal with civilized society. Tame him. The point I'm making is that first and foremost, he said that the NDC didn't have any social intervention policy. Goodness. Were you living in Kusumukaya? NDC had what they call free school uniform for students, which you mocked. Free school uniform. NDC had what they call free school sandals for students, which you mocked. To the extent that the NDC government under President Mahama taxed all of us appointees to allocate 10% of our salary to provide cheap compounds, which you mocked. The NHIA you are talking about, double salary. The Speaker of Parliament currently asked him whether he takes double salary. Don't even go there. The NHIA he's talking about was first piloted in 1996 in Damongu. As a matter of fact, the survival of the NHIA is because we get money from VAT, something the current president opposed, led demonstration, 4 people lost their lives. Their blood are on his hands. And even when he became the Minister for Justice and Attorney General, he didn't see the need to ensure that the death of those people, including a 14-year-old boy, were brought to book. You sit here and you talk about social intervention programs, and you say it with alacrity that not a single social intervention. Sometimes cringe yourself and say that I'm a reverend minister and I'm a politician, and let truth prevail. You know this. And as a matter of please, can I? He said a lot of things. Can I just?
You go ahead. I'm just reminding you that we are talking about the media budget.
Why? When he was talking about social intervention, was it not about the media?
Okay, you go ahead.
He raised issues, I'm responding to them, and that has become an issue. Now, he also peddled another falsehood. The falsehood is that, the NDC made similar statements, and they don't even have credibility. As a matter of fact, he's making reference to the proposed increase in fuel prices, which the NDC said in the last year budget. The NDC said we're picking information that there is going to be an increase in fuel prices. If it turns out that you chicken out, then why do you say that the NDC doesn't have credibility? And in any case, on this proposed taxes and VAT increases, it wasn't the NDC that did it. It was Gabi Ochebdaku, the most powerful person in Ghana today. He tweeted the possibility of increases in VAT. And the NDC says, look, based on what you have said and the information we are picking, as a matter of fact, you have the Deputy Minister for Information who says that yes, there could be possibility. Maybe he needs to read. Go and read the IMF enhanced agreement you have. The IMF have indicated that they have had discussions with you and they have made proposals for increases in taxes, including VAT. And they have even issued a statement in which they stated palpably that their discussions with you on the possible increases in taxes, and your response was encouraging. Why do you want to blame NDC for something that the most powerful person in this country has tweeted? You know what Gabi is doing and what they are doing? Right. Pay more VAT so that we can employ more of our family members. That is what they are doing. But Bright, in any case, let me tell you the strategy of this super incompetent and super corrupt government. And their media and communication strategies are extremely wobbling. I think that the first year student at GIJ will look at it and laugh. You know what they have done? Gabi tweeted. All their communicators and appointees shared the tweet of Gabi. Some of them enhanced even what he tweeted, justifying the need for the people of this country to pay more taxes. Then the next day, Joy FM stated that they are picking information from the presidency, that the president was not happy with the proposed increases in taxes, in VAT, and that the president had even asked the Minister of Finance, to look at other alternative sources of generating revenue rather than VAT. As if this country, we are a bunch of idiots. Mr. President, we are not. Before this president and his incompetent 110 appointees think, we thought, you know what they are doing? There are two scenarios. Put it out there that there is going to be a proposed increase in VAT. Let's test the waters so that when people begin to talk about it, listen to the narrative. The NDC made similar statement. It turns out to be false. So that the president, when they don't even increase VAT, they say it took the intervention of the president not to increase VAT. As a matter of fact, can I finish?
Reverend Alain.
Yeah, that's your speculation.
Reverend Alain is
misbehaving honestly on this.
No, I take exception to these your unsavory words.
That you are misbehaving. You are misbehaving.
I want you to spew out all these unsavory words.
Which one? You're misbehaving.
If they are granted on this platform, I take exception to it.
You are misbehaving. That's precisely what you're doing.
Reverend,
if people watching will tell you are misbehaving.
Can you allow him
to your text messages and see what people say about him?
Can you allow him to
the people you have paid
Reverend,
you see, the people I have paid. I have listened to you. I have the decency and the patience.
Please don't disrupt him.
How more intolerant can you guys be?
He did not
I didn't
interject when you were speaking.
If he's having struggles articulating his propaganda, that is not my problem.
Reverend, please, you allow him.
He has a time to spew his propaganda.
Reverend, please allow him. Comment, please go on.
Let him have this.
Anyway, I'll make the points anyway. I realize that the points are hitting you so
Please go on.
So first and foremost, I am saying that what they are doing, so that it took the president intervention to prevent the Minister of Finance to increase VAT. I mean, God save this country. The Minister of Finance doesn't run Ghana. The minister presents budget for and on behalf of the president. And I don't think that it took the minister just at cabinet to tell the president, this is what I want to do. If that is the case, then God save this country. Before any proposed increases in taxes, once you are increasing the taxes for and on behalf of the president should have been briefed. There should have been several discussions upon which they would come to that conclusion. That is one. So what they are trying to do is that they may come out not increasing VAT, but they will increase other taxes, as if Ghanaians will be comfortable with other taxes rather than VAT. Every single tax that you're going to increase or propose increase or increase is going to be unacceptable, because you are dealing with a political party that stated that taxation was a lazy form of governance. That is one. They may not increase VAT, or they will increase VAT, but not at the rate of 21.5. So it's a wobbling communication strategy. That is precisely what they are doing, to make the president appear as someone who so loves Ghanaians. He is so considerate that, yes, he has asked the Minister of Finance not to increase VAT, but Minister of Finance increase other taxes so that we can generate revenue, as if we'll be very comfortable. We won't accept any, because you have indicated this. Let me tell you, he is talking about taking levies and that they have interest rate has even come down, inflation. That is not what the poor man is. The young person you lied to, that you were going to give him jobs, and the young person struggled to move from Medina, from Adenta to Accra looking for jobs that are not available, will be very angry. Now you tell us that you inherited a backward economy. As a matter of fact, a backward economy in which a gallon of petrol
you have 2 minutes to wrap up.
In which a gallon of petrol was, with all the interjections, I have 2 minutes, very interesting. A backward economy in which petrol gallon was sold at 14 cedis, now sold almost 28 cedis. A backward economy in which the dollar, as late as January 2017, was 4.2, is now almost 4.9. That is a backward economy. A backward economy in which importers were not crying that they could bring in goods they can no longer. A backward economy in which textile and garment industries were striving, even with some challenges. But under your so refined economy, your so beautiful economy, Abraham Kumsen stated that they have asked their members to fast to be able to survive on this economy. A backward economy in which Guta is crying day in, day out. A backward economy in which people are struggling, no beds at our hospitals. A backward economy in which that backward economy provided school rooms, provided hospitals, and your super incompetent and excellent economy, you haven't been able to open those hospitals. Let's clap for you. You have done very well. Your government has done well. A backward economy you inherited.
I'm grateful.
That ambulances are not available, yet your chairman can be able to provide 275 buses for party people. A backward economy you promised heaven. You promised one district, one factory, zero. You promised one village, one dam, bunkers. You promised one constituency, $1 million bunkers. Let's clap for you. You have been able to.
I am grateful.
Of this
Comrade, I'm grateful. Now, this is what I'm going to. We're spending just 2 minutes in the reaction. So quickly, just 1 minute of reaction, and then we'll move on. Yes, just 1 minute.
I would have thought the NDC would have taken a cue from their review of reasons that led to their massive loss in the 2016 election. And they conceded that indeed, economic management and propaganda are two different things. Ghanaians appreciate economic management, and Ghanaians appreciate political communication devoid of unsavory words. But I'm not surprised. Even Major Store was in his own party. He doesn't spare them. So if we have a president that is not in his party and he's using, let me even be measured and circumspect, he's using these unsavory words on the president, I cannot in any way use any word.
I don't
no matter the disagreement I have with
duping people as a member of parliament. You want me to talk about it?
President Mahama.
I'm not engaged in duping people.
With
you,
President
a member of
Mahama,
parliament. You want me to talk
President
about
Mahama.
it? You dupe people, you don't know that.
I take exception to that.
No, it's true.
No, I take exception.
Your issue with some judge.
I take exception.
Let me take a quick break and come back. You're watching New Day. We'll come back in just a moment. Stay with us.
You can dupe people.
All right, sorry for that interruption there. We had to go for a break to deal with matters here. The conversation getting personal there. My two guests have agreed to apologize to each other for going personal in the course of the conversation. Reverend John Tim Fojo and then Comrade Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed would want to apologize to themselves because of the choice of certain words used, which all of them have agreed that indeed they were not decent. Let me give them the opportunity. Which one of you will apologize first? And then the other one will do same. It's just a simple apology, and then we'll move
right. I think the matter in context here has to do with a false, wild allegation that borders, on defamation with full legal implication, and it's on record, and viewers are my witness.
Right. So
yes. So what I would want foremost to hear is if my good brother still stands by those wild falsehood and accusations, those wild accusations.
Reverend, we had an agreement before we came back on air. And if you retract that,
then we'll discuss going forward.
Reverend, we had an agreement before we came back on air.
You didn't make
the agreement, which the two of you agreed, was to apologize to each other. Can we go ahead?
No, right. You must. For me, I have no problem. If I have,
so
let's
go ahead.
I'm very careful in my choice of words.
Yes.
On this platform and every other platform.
Reverend Intim Fojo, can we do this?
Yes, and I'm in the process.
And I'm saying that. And all three of us agree that the two of you were going to apologize to each other. Can we do this?
And I'm saying that I'll apologize for the sake of the viewers and for this platform. But it's not a matter of just apology.
Can you go ahead and withdraw the use of the word fraud
accusation? Can he go ahead and hold on, please?
If it's not going to withdraw that, then he must stand by that, and it's on record that he will face.
First and foremost,
he will face the full implication of the law. And you are my witness.
Please, gentlemen, the two of you agreed. If not, then I'll call off the show. Again, the two of you agreed to apologize. Viewers are watching. I don't want us to drag this.
Bright,
can we just render the apology
let me say that foremost to the foremost.
If this gentleman,
if I have
once again, he's
platform. No, Reverend, you don't have the platform. Come here, you don't have the platform. What I want us to do is that I want you to withdraw the use of the word fraud. You apologize, and then we
listen to me.
We move.
If he takes offense in any word I use against him on this program, for the good of the program, and for the good of your viewing public, I apologize. I withdraw and apologize. I urge him to do the same. But if he's unwilling to do that, I don't mind. He can.
Reverend, he's withdrawn the word. I'm not going to withdraw. Oh, comrade, he has withdrawn and apologized. Can you do the same?
To you and this station and the good viewers.
And not to me.
First and foremost. And I stand that I use my words carefully. Oh, wow. And for the words that I use,
I don't want any explanation.
If they are offensive,
all I want is
if they are offensive,
you ask me, I apologize to him.
If they are offensive, I apologize. And unqualified. But I insist that if he stands by the accusation, the wild accusation, we are talking about high-end reputation here. You don't sit here and if you are losing
he has said he has withdrawn and apologized. I am grateful. Gentlemen, I am grateful. I am grateful. Gentlemen, I am grateful for the time. I have to wrap up the conversation for this morning. I'm so grateful for your time. Thanks so much for joining us. Reverend Tim Fojo, MP for Asin Central, former Deputy Trade Minister, Comrade Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed. Stay with us. There is pause after this show.
Welcome back. So we're still here on TV3 New Day, and joining me in studio is Dr. Lord Mensah of the Department of Finance of University of Ghana Business School, and he's going to be telling me his personal views on government's performance concerning the mid-year budget that will be read on Thursday and what he expects or anticipates to hear in that review. Good morning.
Good morning.
So last year we had the chance to talk about the mid-year budget and also take it into perspective, all that had been done, but it's about 18 months down the line, and so things have shaped up, and I would like to find out your personal view on what you expected in those 18 months and whether it has been satisfactory, and then moving forward we'll talk about what you're expecting from them as well.
Well, very good. We need to look at coming from behind and then going forward. As a country, I would say, yeah, the government read the budget and outlined its policies, and the main one has been the free SHS, which I think is a good cause. But then realizing it has taken a toll on the government expenditure, and we are aware. That is why the government is trying to find a means of, financing this huge expenditure. by, you know, scrambling here and there, and they've realized that possibly taxes will be the most sustainable way of, you know, financing this free SHS, and that is why they want to introduce, you know, some taxes. We are waiting for the minister to come out with that. It's not that certain yet whether the reactions from the public, whether, you know, they will continue to introduce those taxes or not. Right. As a country, you look at it carefully, we've chalked some macro successes for which you can see our interest rate has been coming down, which is reflecting in treasury bill rate. So the government more or less is trying to say that he doesn't want to compete for funds on the market as far as the fund availability is concerned. So treasury bill rate is coming down. Inflation has also been showing downward trends. And then there are policies that I believe that is in the pipeline that the government intends to roll out in capping our, you know, fiscal deficit.
Very well. Dr. Mensah, let me not catch you, but Franklin Cudjoe, Imani Africa president, is joining us on phone. So we'll take his views and come back because you're in studio here with me. Good morning, Franklin.
Right, that's fine. Good morning, Doc. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you too?
I could be better, thank you.
Very well. So tell us a bit about the mid-year budget review and the fact that you have, you know, been speaking especially about the taxes which government seeks to increase to be able to finance certain policies and programs they want to roll out.
Well, first of all, let's just say that the taxes are supposed to be useful to the extent that they are needed and to the extent that they are utilized properly. There's a background to this conversation, which is the fact that during the campaign period in 2016, Imani in particular was asking the political classes what their business plans would look like. Because the days when people just went on the frolic of their own and kept promising heaven, when they had no proper costing attached to it, we thought were over. And I recall that at the MPP, we did actually had concern when some of the tax concessions were being made. Of course, as libertarians and as capitalists, we do not hold any apologies if anybody wants to give tax waivers. But there was something else that was said, that there was a need to shift from taxation-focused economy, more or less, to production. The question we ask ourselves is, even though we know that in the past 18 months, since this government has been in power, probably getting to 19, there hasn't been any significant focus so much on production. If there's anything at all, we are only seeing the benefits of oil and a few other small mercies in agricultural enclave, if you like. So, but it's not enough to have an impact on the economy the way we were promised it was going to happen. Of course, there's still time to go, so we can say that we have not exhausted the tenor yet. But if the whole argument was made that there must be the need to shift from taxation, it also meant that we needed to be sure that what taxes we were collecting, however minimal, were first of all going to be productively and prudently applied. Now, what is happening is that the government's own, well, nobody forced the government to come up with things like free SHS, one district, one factory, one village, one dam. These are things that were going to need monumental investment, even if there was some private sector participation. The fact that the social basket of goods needs to increase does not mean that you do not pay attention to means testing when you are deploying social interventions like free SHS. And we, diametrically, we are quite opposed to the principle that even when the economy seems to be doing better, you should still splurge money and make sure that those who can afford to pay something don't pay anything. I don't even understand that. My vice president had 3 beautiful daughters in high schools in Cape Coast. Anytime he was going to visit them, the provisions alone he bought was sometimes 3-4 times the price. That's the value of the school fees that they were paying at the time. So people like that clearly could afford. The fact that we are abdicating that responsibility or that quest to be diligent and identify those who can afford, so that those who cannot afford, you save money, and then while giving them scholarships, you also use the rest to expand the infrastructure that you need, so that you prevent the the images of students hanging around like lizards and ants in secondary schools. I don't even see whether they are receiving proper education, because education is not like vaccination you give. You need to prepare the environment to receive education. So on that basis, we had warned that be careful rolling back some of these seemingly, if you like, not necessarily progressive, but very important items that also meant that if the economy was growing, some people needed to make a little sacrifice.
Right.
It wasn't long after we realized that now it's catching up. The fever, which has now becoming more like an addiction, means that there must be some tax contemplations of taxes. We cannot make the excuse that because we need to develop and expand certain services, so willy-nilly we need to raise taxes. Our argument is that, first of all, go back to the drawing table, start looking at the policy that is gulping up a lot of the resources like free SHS, do some rationalization on some of the projects that are poorly procured. You know, my pet subject, Kearney GVG. Kearney should cost us not less than $200,000. There's no need spending $178 million on that particular enterprise. That's free money sitting at the NCA and potential money that will come that they probably do not have any proper plan to spend. Don't forget, those monies were the source of the likes of JIDA and SADA. So there's a reason why we are on that particular project. You are also giving tax exemptions. In 2017 alone, tax exemptions that were projected to go to about 932 million Ghana cedis, jumped by 175% to 2.6 billion cedis. Question is, what value addition did we have to the economy in terms of job creation and in terms of relieving the lives of people who would eventually buy the produce or the products of these entities that are getting these reprieves? So there's a need, because if you look at the tax exemptions, they've become a very easy and a very, at the risk of sounding probably too political, it's become an avenue for political collusion, nepotism, and all sort of deals that are done in what I call chronic capitalist arrangement. We saw all of this in the NDC days. Now it's increasing. Question though is that who even tries to project tax exemptions in a budget? I mean, you want to make some projections, but please, you project 930-something million based on what you believe may be the value of investments that are coming. But to go ahead and then actually almost double it, it's unheard of. And then you have all these fuel fraud things happening as well. Fuel fraud alone, as the Seaboard has found out, must have lost Ghana 1.4 billion. So if anybody tells you that they want a tax increase, first of all, three things. One, go back to the drawing table on free SHS. Be careful, because then you are going to use almost all the oil resources. Don't forget the ABFA. Out of, I think, 250 million that we had from the ABFA, 211 million of that was applied to free SHS. And it was going to grow. So be careful how you use your money, especially when the returns are not likely to be productive. Two, go back and look at some of the exemptions you are giving, because they do not add value. Three, be careful the kinds of projects you enter into, like the likes of Kearney GVG, which is stupendously profligate. And then finally, you need to cut back on the size of government. You see, the size of government, as they say, is also an indication that sometimes people may probably not understand the level of need that they have. And so they just decide that they bloat it anyway. It's not just in terms of numbers. The numbers matter, because the numbers have an effect on the how do you call it, the services they exact from us, the free cars, the free fuel, and then no proper value reduction, no proper value addition that we actually get. So we need to look at all of those instances and begin to also build the economy away from regulatory enterprises like, when you're starting a business and paying a tax in this country, it's laborious. It's the only reason why on the World Bank Doing Business report, we've consistently slipped from 108th in 2016 to 112th in 2017 to 120th in 2018. And the corporates are three. Usually, the starting a business is prohibitive. Paying a tax sometimes is prohibitive because you have all these things you need to generate offline before you continue. Then construction permits. So there are low-hanging fruit that could be dealt with immediately to shift the system. May I add one last thing though?
Please do.
And I hear the National Health Insurance also claims they need more money. We understand that the scheme has about 10 million people who are not insured. That's understandable. The 70% of those already insured are not paying premium. So we need to take a good look at that. And we must be intent on, doing the means testing. You see, let's not allow politicians to run away from doing means testing before they apply these expansionist behemoths and what I call, of course, expansionist agenda. If you cannot measure something, there's no need putting money in it. So if you come and tell me that, well, the scheme is growing, so I need to come and we need to increase tax, what's the point? Every CD you give the National Health Insurance Authority, 40% is spent on their own administration. You cannot continue building offices all over the country. When today you need, what are you doing? You are processing claims, vetting these claims. That's technology. Hello. That's what we should be doing. Let's not spend money this way. In any case, the National Health Insurance Authority must be minded that they are also a problem in the private insurance space. I'll tell you why. There are about 11 licensed private health insurance providers. 5 of them private mutual health providers, and then the rest are commercial providers. If you want to set up as a mutual health insurance company, the regulatory barrier alone is high. You are asked to put up 1.1 million cedis and set aside 10% of that as some bulwark against shocks. If you want to go private commercial, you need to cover 5.5 million cedis in order to do what? And save and put aside 20% as a bulwark against any shock. When you do these things, you stifle the insurance space to take away the burden from the state. And I think that we need to look at that. The money, we pay premiums of about 1,200 cedis per worker, and that's the least. Why should it be so? But these insurance companies are saying that.
If I gave you the whole day as a think tank, you still wouldn't even be able to complete touching on this mid-year budget and what you expect from government. But indeed, we're very grateful to you for joining us this morning and shedding some light on the pertinent issues that are to be addressed and hopefully in the mid-year budget that we would hear on Thursday. Thank you so much. And that was Franklin Kujo, the president for Imani Africa. But also Joe Jackson, COO of Dalex Finance, is joining us in studio. Good morning, Mr.
Good
Jackson.
morning. Good to be here.
Great to have you. So we were just going back into the mid-year budget review. I'll allow Dr. Mensah to go back on his point, telling us where we're coming from and where he expects us to be going, and then you joining in that conversation.
Yeah, I think, like I was saying, we've had some macro indicators that are quite favorable. I mean, holding it up there. Right. I mean, we expect that these indicators will, transform into the people's life. I mean, ordinary citizenry's, life. At the end of the day, you go to the market, you should be comfortable when you receive your salary. You should know your consumption has smoothened. You are sure of what you're going to buy the next 1 month. Now, we've not realized that yet as we speak. Now, if you ask me the introduction of the possibility of introducing taxes, how it can impact, it has a tendency of derailing this transformation that we want to have, in the end of looking at the macro successes that we've chalked and how it can reflect in the people's life. We might not realize that, depending on the threshold of the taxes that is being introduced. Now, if you take, taxes, how it can feed into the people's life. Our tax system has been on, perpendicular agenda, where we try to increase taxes on people who already pay taxes without investing in how we can capture, people into, those underground into the tax net. Now, if you take the investment we did on Ghana Post GPS, you'll get to know that one of the objectives was to make sure that we identify locations of businesses, locations of individuals. We call them underground economy, so that we can bring them up where the tax net can capture them. I see that project to be a standalone project now, without any integration on revenue collection. Let me put it that way. So that is another money gone down, let me put it down the drain. I don't know whether there's a policy in the pipeline or there are mechanisms that are being put in place to ensure that we can see the end product of that investment. You know, that product, that investment has not realized its end product. So if you ask me, we're not investing in revenue collection. How do we expand to capture the informal sector? I'm waiting for a government that will come and say, this is my budget. My budget this year, I want to make sure that I invest in possibility of identifying those underground economy, you know, that they can fall into the tax net. And trust me, those who pay direct taxes, they are the same people who will pay indirect taxes. It's obvious, it's clear on the ground. Because if I'm earning and you tax me huge on my, you know, kind of income tax, I'll be the one who has salary to go and enjoy Kempinski. At the end of the day, slap some tax on whatever luxury that I'm enjoying there. So in the end, it boils down to the same set of people. But we need an investment that can open up the tax net, rather than every time trying to find a way to increase it. But hey, let me also touch on this. You see, taxes might not necessarily be the only way. I know somebody will say it will not be politically wise to do that. There's nothing wrong, like Franklin was saying, to review your policies. There's nothing wrong to go back to the drawing board and say, this is the policy I intend to roll out. I've rolled it out. I've realized that maybe I might not necessarily hit the target I want. Sustainability is quite problematic. So let me find a way to hit on it based on targets. Those who are in need of those policies, you know, really in need of it. Not everyone is in need of, you know, free SHS, you know. And then also, if that is not enough, you look at cutting down expenditure. Now, looking at fiscal deficit that we create, fiscal deficit of, let's say, 4.5% of our GDP. We want to hold on to that target. There are two parameters that are defined in there. We're talking about revenue, we're talking about expenditure. You don't necessarily have to raise revenue. You can cut down expenditure and still close, you know, this gap that you need to finance. So at the end of the day, we should be careful how we manage this country. And I can also say that, you see, we go into project driven by purely, you know, the cut we'll get from the project. Not necessarily looking at the cost benefit, you know, that this project, you know, can expose us to. Now, every project, you need to do a business plan for it. You know very well that you take into consideration the cost involved and then the possible benefit that the project can give you. That is purely economic sense, you know, in going into project. But in this country, projects are purely driven by the cut that people will get from it. How party actors can be engaged in those projects. That is what drives most of the, you know, policies that we rolled out. That is why most policies are rolled out and we don't realize, you know, its drill.
Very well. Joe Jackson, what do you have to say about this? What are some of the expectations? And for me, I'll be interested in you highlighting what you think this government has been able to do concerning, you know, our revenue collection or inputs, and maybe also where they've deviated from what they promised as of last year.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, two things. The government is broke. That, you know, there's no way to slice or dice it to make it a little bit more appetizing. We are flat broke.
That's the truth.
And it is indicative that for the first time yesterday, the Minister of Finance admitted that there's no money to fund their social intervention programs. Listen, whichever way you put it, last year, 99.7% of all revenues, including grants, went on salaries, interest payments, and statutory transfers. Finish. It's all over. There's no other way to to put it. So, do we need more taxes? The answer is yes. The challenge we have is the way they're going about to increase the taxes. You can increase taxes by deepening, which means the people who pay more, or by widening, opening the net to new people to pay, right? And unfortunately, what has the government done well? It has diagnosed the problem well. What has it? It's diagnosed the problem. It's set into motion. What do you call it? Some projects which are, but it has not executed and it has not integrated. Why do I say that? Go back to the first State of the Nation address. I'm not even talking about the State of the Nation address in 2018. 2017, it was clearly identified the ills that we're suffering. And he said we need to formalize the economy. We need to bring more people into the tax net. There were some key projects. Ghana Post. Another project was National ID.
The digitalization of the ports.
Yes. The ports. What has happened? National ID, we are still playing hide and seek with National ID. I'm not sure where we are. I'm not sure whether it's been rolled out. Some people are purported to have registered, didn't register. There's still all sorts of issues going there. This is 18 months later. Ghana Post has been done. It is a silo. It's sitting, it is a silo. It has no bearing on everything that happens. We've had another project which says, if you don't have a tin, you can't have a bank account. If you don't have a tin, you can't. Fantastic. What has happened? I have a tin, but it's meaningless. Nobody is linking my tin to the taxes I've paid. So I give you my tin, that's fine. Life goes on. So what they have failed to do, the problem has been diagnosed, projects have been identified, but I ask myself, who is sitting there and integrating all these projects and bringing it together? We're 18 months into a 48-month term, for which the last months will be spent campaigning. Effectively, we are halfway through.
The last year.
I'm being kind. So we're wondering what on earth is happening. I tell you this, if there's an attempt to, and I say if because we're not sure yet. And all indications seem to be like there's some critical cabinet meeting going on this morning to review this VAT issue, because it is clear that the government has been flying a kite, trying to say it's the sentiment of the market. And I tell you, they'll be shocked at the pushback. They'll be surprised at the pushback, and I think they're feeling it now. That's why there's a critical cabinet meeting. VAT, and the worst part I've heard is that the VAT won't be paid by consumers. I don't know which. I don't know which. Forgive me. I don't know which communicators and where they got that analysis from. But to me, I always say that I'm a student of the University of Ghana economics department. I was taught by our former vice president of blessed memory. And he didn't teach me that. I'm serious. I don't know where they're getting it from. The tax is by definition to be passed on.
Definitely.
It is by definition to be passed on. It's a consumption tax. No consumer, no tax. So I don't know what they're talking about, that it will increase prices. Why? It should increase prices, otherwise it has failed.
When it increases prices, obviously the inflation that we've seen the downward trend will be affected.
And
that's why I said we might not realize the macro, transformation that we want it to happen.
The challenge we have is that somehow the politicians seem to think we can have a free lunch. If you ask me, is free SHS good? Yeah.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Very good.
It's a national health insurance scheme. Very good. Excellent. But we've got to make a choice. We are broke. We've got to make a choice. The challenge we have now is that we seem to think there's a free lunch somewhere and that we can have everything without any pain. If, as a country, we look around and we say, no bed syndrome, no, and I keep talking about the vice president thrown behind the back of a pickup when he collapses, no ambulance, no beds, no this, no that, no drugs. You know, at the root of that problem is the NHIA. And for so long as we have not got a proper plan to fund the NHIA, none of us should start complaining about no bed. If I'm a hospital and I come from Winneba, a hospital, a district hospital in Winneba, and I have not been paid for 6 months, how do you expect me to fund drugs, beds, whatever? It won't happen. So what we have is all around us. It is clear that whatever the macro parameters are saying, life around us is still grim.
It's meaningless.
And it's grimmer and grimmer and grimmer. And you might call it anecdotal evidence, but I assure you that the people out there, the common person in Ghana, does not feel that this morning there is progress towards fulfilling his expectations as to shelter, to healthcare, to feeding, and all the other pursuits that he might have. He feels that he's walking backwards. He feels that there are no jobs, and there are truly no jobs. He feels that life is harder. And you come and stand there and say you're throwing in more tax. This is going to be a tough one.
Right.
What I expect to happen is that there's some key projects that have been announced. Bring them together. Let's see the implementation of these projects. Come, and it's a tough one, eh? Tell us what the truth is. That you can't fund NHIA.
It's politically tough.
It is tough. Because I assure you that given the partisan nature of our politics, the NDC politicians are waiting quietly to see how they are going to get out of a rock and a hard place. But I assure you, I don't see any way out. We need to face our reality and take hard decisions as to, I'm just looking for the hard decisions. You ask me what I expect from this budget, hard decisions.
Very well.
And I'm saying that let the hard decision not include a blanket deepening of the tax. I admit that we need more money, but let me see it widening. And let's see the hard decisions. I like the way Doc put it. Let's revisit some of our policies. I'll tell you, go and make a choice what you want, because you can't have
everything at the table. But you all both talk about widening the net.
Yes.
You know, and successively, this has been a big issue because, like you said, it comes back to the rich people in society who pay these taxes. And when you talk about widening, you're going down to the grassroots. These are the same people who don't even have jobs to start off with. There's that lady selling chewing gum on the street or water, and yet you're asking that she be included amidst all these economic issues. How real is this widening as well?
Yeah, very good. The widening does not necessarily mean that you're going to capture, businesses that are operating below a certain threshold. There are several businesses that are out there that are operating above a certain threshold. I make a statement by saying that, the economy in itself is operating below capacity. We are not tapping into, all the resources that we have. Several people are working idle, without jobs here and there. And then there are people also who are really making the monies that, we find it difficult to identify them. And those are the targets we are talking about. Not necessarily ordinary person selling chewing gum. What's the capital? Ice water, what's the capital? But then we have businesses that are around that, they've invaded taxes since the inception of the business. And those are the ones that we're looking at.
I want to make an intervention here. You see, when we talk about widening the tax, forgive me, it's not that lady who's standing out there who's selling roast plantain. That is my real target. Let's look at some of the issues. Property taxes. This country does not charge property taxes. Last February, my CEO, Mr. Ken Thompson, stood on a public platform and said, I live in Ajirigano. I live in one of the most expensive areas in Accra. Nobody has come to ask me for a property tax. Today, I challenge you that if you come, I will pay. 6 months later, no tax, nothing.
And so won't that point to revenue collection rather than widening? Because these are people who have already been identified. But it's how to collect.
But you see, the policy itself that is guiding that, revenue property tax. Looks at just the land, not the building on it.
Not even the building on it.
So that is faulty to start
So we need
off
to
with.
revisit all these things and look at the kind of building and the location, and then classify, demographics to ensure that, it doesn't, you know, cut across uniformly. So properties somewhere at different place might be, or in terms of value, will be different from other places. So we need to recalibrate.
But well, the
the
senior
entire
minister
system.
did attribute that that was a problem. The valuation system
Yes,
in
yes,
itself was an
we
issue.
need to invest in that. That is why I told you we need investment into how we can collect revenue.
Right. Yes.
Widening the tax net comes with investment. You don't just, you know, say it's a problem and leave it the way it is. Yes.
I want to add another example when we talk about widening the tax net. A couple of months back, all of us have been asked to get tins. If you don't have a tin, it sounds okay, doesn't it? Right. What does the tin do? What is the link between my tin and the taxes I've paid? So if you ask me for a tin, and yet when I'm going to register my latest Rolls Royce, and you then don't make any link between that Rolls Royce or the Bentley or whatever vehicle, then where are we going? Right. You have all these disjointed initiatives. So let the people who can pay more. See, the challenge we have when we say deepening is only those who are deducted at source who are paying, and the larger corporates who are paying. The rest of so I'm just saying that even if your money was obtained correctly, pay the tax.
You see, Joe Jackson, let me also state this here. You know, in this country, how is projects executed? We need to look at that. Right. Because it's like project approaches the president's office. Project approaches the vice president's office. Project approaches a certain minister's office. Quickly we jump on it. But as to how we can integrate this project to the benefit of the nation, we don't do that. And more so, like I said earlier in my presentation, it's about cuts, the percentages we can get. That is why, if you look at the history of our budget, there's always a huge sums of money that has been allocated for capital expenditure. You know why? Because that is where the cut will come from.
Anyway, let me take your final comments because it's an interesting discussion, but we have very little time to wrap up.
For me, I'm just saying to the managers of the economy, and especially our Honorable Minister of Finance, let's see some hard decisions. Let's see some hard decisions. Let's see an integrated plan to fix this economy. But most important of all, let's see the hard decisions.
Very well. Dr. Mensah.
Yeah, my advice is that the economy is operating below capacity. And any economy that operates below capacity, if you don't take care, continuous introduction of taxes, continuous increase in taxes can hamper the economy further. Yeah.
Very well. I'd like to say a very big thank you to you, Mr. Joe Jackson, COO of Daylex Finance, and also Dr. Lord Mensah of the Department of Finance, University of Ghana Business School. We have them talking about the much anticipated mid-year budget, and hopefully on Thursday it will be read and we can all make our decisions as to where the economy is headed. On that note, this has been New Day. Thank you for joining us. Same time, we'll see you tomorrow, 6 to 9 a.m. It's a wrap from us. Enjoy your day.